Hey gaming fans, so today I have another Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile, and this one is Dark World. Another deck that I used to play a long time ago. I decided to rebuild it again just for fun and just to see if there's anything new I can throw in here. So anyways, let's get to the build. So the first monster, obviously on the top there, is Tour Guide from the Underworld. She essentially just, when you summon her, she pulls out another level 3 Fiend monster from your deck, or your hand if you want to, and summons it to the field. There's a few targets in here, so she actually is pretty good. The first target I want to talk about, though, is Fiendish Rhino Warrior. Now, he's not a Dark World monster, but he does help out the deck. He's a 1400 attack, level 3 Fiend, so he could be targeted by her. And what he does is he makes all Fiend monsters, except himself, they cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. And then the part that Tour Guide works well with is when he's sent to the graveyard, so it could be sent from your hand, sent from the deck, sent from anywhere. As long as he's sent to the graveyard, you get to pretty much Foolish Burial, send a Fiend monster from your deck to your graveyard. So you can pull him out, XYZ into a monster, detach as a material. He's now being counted as being sent to the graveyard, and then you get to ditch a Fiend from your deck. So, really good card, actually, in this build. So the first of the Dark Worlds is Ceruli, I think it's called. Ceruli, Guru of the Dark World. This is an interesting one. He's a level 1, it's 100 attack, so you don't really use him for any kind of aggression. But if this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you special summon this card from your graveyard to your opponent's side of the field in face-up defense position. And then when this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dark World, which he is a Dark World monster, so it's his effect that's special summoning him, then your opponent must discard one card. So the opponent being myself. So I would send this from my hand to the graveyard. It goes over to my opponent's side of the field. And now his effect kicks in and forces me to discard the card, which means I'm now discarding a card from my hand as if it's coming from my opponent. And that comes in handy for some of these Dark World cards, like Brow, for instance. He's another target for Tour Guide, if you need to. Level 3 Fiend. And then if he's discarded from the hand by your own effect, you draw one card. If he's discarded by your opponent's effect, or by this card, if it's sent over to your opponent's side of the field, you get to draw 2 cards. So, pretty neat effect. The same goes for Snow, which I think is one of the better ones because he searches out a Dark World card when he's discarded. Also, if he's discarded by your opponent's effect, you target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, and then you special summon it face up in defense position. So it can steal a monster. It's kind of an odd effect for a Dark World monster, but still cool if you could pull it off. But I think mostly you use him for his search effect. You would discard him, then you'd pull out any Dark World card you need. And that's it for the normal monsters, so I'm going to move those aside. Now we got some, well, they're tribute monsters, but you don't actually, well, you probably won't be tributing them. So I put in 1 gold and 1 silver. And these were the main cards I remember back in the day when Dark World first became a thing. People would play like 2 or 3 of these. I'm only playing 1 of each because they're both got great effects. If they're discarded by your opponent. Otherwise, if they're just discarded, you special summon them. So it's really cool that you can actually just pitch these cards from another spell, and they just summon themselves to the field. But if they're summoned by your opponent's effects, gold will actually allow you to destroy 2 cards on the field, your opponent's field, or silver will allow you to force your opponent to choose 2 cards in their hand and put them on the bottom of their deck. So that's kind of a powerful one there. So you could probably pick one if you want to have both, or you maybe double up on these guys. And the reason why I'm only playing 2 is because I decided to play 2 of the Lucent Netherworld of the Dark World. He's a level 7 or 6. He's a level 6 Fiend. And if this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you could special summon it from the graveyard. Then if this was discarded from your hand by your opponent's card effect, you could special summon 1 Fiend monster from your deck to either side of the field. So again, you could send over this guy, and now you got to trigger that effect, which will force you to discard a card from your hand. Or you could just summon one of your other Dark World monsters to your side of the field. So really cool monster. And the last monster I have is, of course, Grapha, the Dragon Lord of the Dark World. The main reason why this deck is really good, I mean, because this guy can just destroy anything. You can special summon this card from your graveyard by returning one Dark World monster you control. So that's why you want to send cards to the graveyard, essentially, with this guy. You send him, and then you can just normal summon one of your Dark Worlds, bounce it back to your hand, and bring this guy out of the graveyard. So really cool reoccurring effect. He's really difficult to get rid of. Your opponent pretty much has to banish him or shuffle him into the deck somehow. And then if he's discarded to the graveyard, you target one card your opponent controls and you can destroy that target. Then if it was discarded from your hand by your opponent's card effect, you look at one random card in your opponent's hand. If it's a monster, you could special summon it to your side of the field. So this can like kill your opponent essentially if you steal something really big, and you can go in and attack for game. So really interesting. But I mean, his discard effect to just destroy anything is really good too. Now onto the spells. So I threw in Upstart Goblin. I just wanted some draw power. Same with Allure of Darkness. Your whole deck is dark monsters, so just a little bit more draw power. One Monster Reborn, never hurts to have. Terraforming, because we do play the Gates of the Dark World. I play 3 of those. This is an awesome field spell because it gives all fiend monsters plus 300, which every monster in your deck is a fiend. And once per turn, you can banish one fiend monster from your graveyard, discard one fiend monster, and then draw a card. So it's draw power. It goes with the theme. It allows you to discard from your hand as an effect. It's not a cost. So it's actually pretty good. And then we got Dark World Dealings. I think every Dark World deck will play this. Each player draws one card and then they discard one card. So you can pretty much pull off any of your Dark World effects from it. Just be wary that if your opponent's playing Dark World, you're going to trigger their effects. So you got to be careful. And the same thing with this one, Card Destruction. This can be deadly in this deck because if you have a full hand of Dark Worlds and you pretty much discard your entire hand, you're going to get off a lot of effects or get a lot of monsters on the field, and you can probably crush your opponent at that point. I threw in one Gateway to the Dark World. It's kind of like Monster Reborn. Well, it is Monster Reborn, but it's a quick play, so you can actually set it. And it's basically if you activate this card, you cannot normal summon, flip summon, or special summon during the turn this card's activated. So oftentimes I would set it and then probably activate it during my opponent's turn. Possibly if they try to destroy it, or maybe during the end phase, just activate it, get the monster you need, and then on your turn you're fine to summon again. And then the last thing is I always like to run my spell and trap removals because I don't like spells and traps. So 3 Mystical Space Typhoons. Again, you can play whatever you want. If you want to play Twin Twisters, or if you want to play other cards in there in that slot, that's up to you. Depends on your meta game. It depends on who you play against, if they play a lot of back row. And then for the traps, this one I was kind of debating on certain ones, but I want to run one Dark Smog. Once per turn, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, discard a fiend monster, and if you do, banish that target. So it allows you to get your discards off, and it can stop your opponent's graveyard stuff. Now, I think for the new rule change that just came out in Master Rule 5, certain effects have to resolve in the graveyard, and this card you can probably kind of negate them if they hit the graveyard. I'm not sure 100% on that, but I did read or see a video on that, so let's see, it's something interesting to look into. One, Call It a Haunted, because you got a lot of stuff going into the graveyard, why not special summon them? And 2 Evacuation Devices. I can see this being good for both you targeting your own monster and your opponent. Obviously, you can get rid of like Link monsters or Synchros or any extra deck monsters. You could just ban it, like pretty much send them back to the extra deck. Or if it's just a card they're going to kill you with, you can bounce it back. Or you can return one of your Dark World cards on the field so you can discard it. So really good option there. And then for the last two, virus cards. Again, I was debating on this, and I decided to go with one of each, just for fun. So the deck Devastation Virus is you tribute one dark monster with 2,000 or more attack points, which a lot of your monsters have. And then you check all the monsters on your opponent's side of the field and in their hand, and what he draws for the next 3 turns, and destroy those monsters. As far as I know, this wasn't changed, errated like Crush card was, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's the same though. And this one is tribute one dark monster with 2,500 or more, so that's a little bit more tough. You got to get to the really big guys. And you could declare one type, spell, or trap. Check your opponent's hand for all spell, traps, spell cards they control, and all cards they draw for the next 3 turns, and destroy those cards. So this could be really deadly if you literally pull this off on their first turn of the game, and you call spells or something. All their spells are gone, so and they're gone for like 3 turns, unless they're a quick play and they can chain to it. But yeah, so that's the traps. And of course the last bit here. Just some extra deck stuff, because, you know, you can go into stuff. So I thought Link Kuriboh, because you are playing those level 1 guys, and just in case you have one in your hand and that's it, and it's not going to do anything for you, you can turn it into a Link Kuriboh. I threw this guy in. He's alright. Pentestag? He's two effect monsters to summon him. If your linked monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. That was the only reason why I thought it would be fun. Turns your Grapha into a piercer. So if you summon your little guy over to their side of the field in defense position, you can run into him with a Grapha and still do some damage. I threw in a Borrelord Dragon. I don't have a Borrelsword Dragon, or else I'd play that. It's just a really big beater. And so that's all I threw in there for Link monsters. XYZ stuff, this is where it's going to matter, because your tour guide plays. So I threw in Leviair just for some destruction, or not destruction, for you know, making them pretty big. Zenmaines for destruction, because if they try to attack it or whatever, they get a card blown up. Leviair, because you banish stuff, so then you could special summon it back to the field. And Acid Golem, just for beat stick. And so these are just, you know, some great rank 3s that I decided to throw in there. It is possible in this deck, too, to kind of go into a rank 4, so why not throw in stuff like the Arc? Daigusto Emerald would be pretty good in this deck. Castel, Abyss Dweller. And, you know, when I played this deck, I don't think I went into my extra deck too often. I mean, I usually just played with whatever I got out on the field. Then I threw in some 5s, because I think there is the Gold and Silva. Probably will never happen, but whatever. And then some level 8s, because of Grapha. Again, you probably wouldn't want to sacrifice 2 level 8 3,000 attackers for one monster, but I mean, these do have a destruction effect to them and stuff like that, so you know, it might come in handy. Anyways, that's the deck that I put together. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and what would you change? What would you not play if you play Dark World? I always like to hear it, and leave some comments down below. Hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.